Family Guy is famous for its humor, especially the shocking stuff like this.
Oh, it's my book club, Peter. Come, join us.
Oh, okay.
But every once in a while, between all those hilariously dark episodes, you'll all of a sudden find an episode that smacks you right in the feels.
I mean, I love you as one loves another person whom one simply cannot do without.
I love you too, Stewie.
Yeah, it's time to ride the emotional roller coaster that is Family Guy. And let's start things off with a fact. Dogs are some of the most faithful companions a human can have, and none come more faithful than Brian, even if it costs him his life.
Who's this at? Who's this at?
Probably belongs to the hospital.
What's that for?
Cutting me open, harvesting my organs, and killing me?
Bro, Peter, don't rub it in, man. In New Kidney in town, Peter and the guys are having a few beers at the Clam, discussing some pretty thought-provoking hypotheticals.
Would you rather have dinner and then with Megan Fox's body with Leonard Nimoy's head on it, or re-roof an entire condo complex by yourself?
Oh, boy.
Can I close my eyes?
You couldn't get me up that ladder fast enough. When Peter fails to add to the guide talk, he tells his friends he's too tired to play, as Brian and the other dogs in the neighborhood have kept him up all night. This is when Joe suggests trying some Red Bull to wake him up.
Here you go, Peter. It's on the house.
So, what do you think?
No, bro. The first ones are always free to get you hooked. This sends him down a Red Bull bender, which gives him more energy than the Duracell bunny after accidentally sitting on a Tesla supercharger port. It's a long story. He trashes the house, beats the cow milking record, and somehow manages to set Chris's junk on fire. Like, dang, I heard they can give you wings, but they left that hazard off the can. He even goes on The Price is Right, but spins the wheel a little too vigorously.
Paramedics, come on down!
It's the producer's turn to spin the wheel of compensation, and something tells me it's definitely not landing on the number they want. Peter is clearly out of control, so Lois cuts him off, but after throwing away his stash and banning him from buying any more, Peter decides to make his own moonshine version. He adds some questionable ingredients, including the highly toxic kerosene. Brian tries to warn him, but Peter glugs the whole jug anyway. After drinking a literal fuel and passing out, Peter receives some pretty bad news.
Kidney failure? But is he gonna be okay?
We'll put him on a kidney transplant list, but that could take months.
Yeah, to say the least, it's pretty bad news. But hey, on the bright side, at least he'll have $3 to the gallon from whatever's in his kidneys. At the Clam, Peter gets annoyed that his dialysis treatment is cutting into his beer drinking time, which is pretty ironic, if I might add, and decides to skip his treatment. After all, skipping one treatment won't kill you, right?
Oh my God, you don't look so good.
What are you talking about? I feel great. Like I could go another 20 years or more.
Yep, Peter ends up looking as yellow as Homer Simpson in a pool full of custard, a sign that things are not good. Desperate for a new kidney and his human family members not suitable for a transplant, Brian offers one of his, but there's a snag. Because dog kidneys are too small, Peter would need both of them, which means he would die. Brian is known for being pretty selfish at times, but this time he was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice.
You're my best friend. You gave me a home when I didn't have one, and you've treated me like a family member ever since. I'm a dog. I have another 8 years at best. I'm willing to give that up so you can have another 40.
Saying that Peter was obviously moved by this gesture is kind of an understatement, and things get really emotional, with Peter and Brian having a very tearful moment. With the operation happening the next day, Brian must say his emotional goodbyes, sharing the last words of wisdom with each of the Griffins, but not before taking advantage of the situation.
Can I hump your leg for 15 uninterrupted seconds?
I suppose so, Brian. I said you could do it for 15 seconds.
Didn't need it.
Dirty dog! It's probably for the best the pooches don't qualify for the Make-A-Wish program. After finding out what's happening, Stewie kidnaps his friend so he can't sacrifice himself for Peter. Ouch. When your child chooses the family dog over you, I think it's time to take him to a ball game or something. Actually, no, I hate sports. I don't take me to any ball game. Keep your balls away from me. Brian explains that if he doesn't let him go, Stewie will lose his dad.
And if you don't let me go right now, you're gonna lose your dad.
But, Brian, I don't want to lose anybody. I don't want to lose anybody.
Poor Stewie. He's so upset that he's achieved the Tom Selleck level of a snot stash. Coming to his senses, Stewie lets him go, and Brian makes it to the operation in time. With just moments left before Dr. Hartman puts them under, Peter and Brian say their goodbyes. As the doctor arrives, though, he makes an announcement that turns this depressing moment around.
I found another donor for your husband.
Oh!
Me.
What?
Brother, I need to move to Quahog. My doctor won't give me any appointment, let alone a few of their organs. This episode was touching and one of the most wholesome Family Guy moments that remind us how much the Griffins actually love each other at the end of the day. I really don't know what's more moving, the fact that Brian was willing to sacrifice himself for his best friend, or Dr. Hartman willing to give up one of his kidneys, even if it was to stop losing some of his last remaining patients. I guess every business sometimes needs an investment, even the small, pink, squishy kind. While Brian narrowly avoided losing his kidneys, in another episode, he loses a lot more. When Brian gets arrested for a DUI, he's forced to do some community service. He hates it at first, but after meeting a mature lady who can sing, he changes his tune. And she must have a really beautiful voice. In Brian Wallows and Peter Swallows, Brian takes a woman out on a date, but she isn't as sophisticated as he may like. Don't be so shallow, Brian. She's willing to look past the fact that your tail wags whenever you're asked if you want to go for a walk. I don't know why I talk to cartoon characters like they're in the same room as me. Does anyone else do that? I feel weird. Depressed that he'll never find someone he can have an intellectual connection with, Lois suggests to Peter that he should take him to the Laser Rock concert. Unfortunately for Brian, it has the opposite effect.
Be as bad as one, this number is the number.
You are a filthy.
Brian, wallowing in his loneliness, hits his flask of whiskey while driving, which gets him pulled over by Joe for swerving in the road. A month later, Brian goes to court and is given a punishment he's less than thrilled about.
So, what do you have to do for your community service?
I gotta take care of some old woman who hasn't been out of her house in 30 years.
Well, I mean, you were looking for a more mature woman, Brian, and you can't get more mature than caring for the elderly. I'm just saying. This is when Brian meets Pearl Burton, a grouchy old woman who treats him like a slave. Eventually, he's had enough of being bossed around, and despite Pearl's threats of calling the judge to lock him up, he gives her a piece of his mind and leaves. Back at Spooner Street, though, Brian makes an interesting discovery.
In 1961, Pearl used an appearance at Carnegie Hall to make the leap from jingle singer to artist.
That's Habanera from Carmen.
While Brian appreciated how beautifully she used to sing, the people back in 1961 only wanted to hear her sing jingles, so she vanished and was never seen again. Brian, realizing that he had been mean to Pearl and hadn't even tried to get to know her, returns to her house, and in the nick of time.
Pearl, I mean...
Oh, stop trying to talk me out of it.
No one who sings Carmen like you is pathetic.
What?
I heard you sing Habanera. You were sublime.
I agree with Brian. Although I don't know much about opera until now, I thought habanera was just a type of chili pepper. Talking Pearl out of doing anything hasty and cheering up the elderly woman by telling her he appreciates her singing, the two become friends. Brian leaves, but not before telling her that he will be back to spend more time with her. See, Pearl, this is the kind of hanging out you should be doing. I'm sorry, that was probably in poor taste. This isn't the only wholesome relationship looming in the episode, however, as Peter decides to grow a beard that would make Hagrid jealous. The problem is that it attracts a rare species of bird. When your facial hair starts attracting wildlife, it's probably time to get the razor out. To make matters worse, the uninvited guest uses Peter as a nest and leaves him to take care of the 3 baby chicks. Knowing they have nobody else, Peter does everything with them. Brushes their beaks, shares milkshakes, and even regurgitates food for them. Okay, maybe that last part's gone a little too far. Lois notices that his feathered friends are growing up too fast and makes a suggestion.
Peter, they're getting awfully big. So every good mother knows when it's time for her babies to leave the nest.
Anytime they want. Fine, I'll let him go.
Something tells me that's not toothpaste in his beard. Reluctantly, Peter agrees that it's time for them to fly the nest, despite how close he had become to them. And speaking of getting close, back at Pearl's house, the elderly performer gives Brian his own private night at the opera. From the comfort of an armchair, Brian suggests that Pearl should go out for dinner with him and see everything she's missed out on.
Brian, I've missed so much. If it wasn't for you.
She probably should have focused on the things she couldn't see, like the truck hurtling towards her. How can you focus on things you can't see? You know what? Brian visits Pearl in the hospital, where his friend tells him that she shouldn't have much time left. Naturally, Brian feels terrible for making Pearl leave the house, but that's when she tells him that she had the best day of her life today, apart from the truck thing. Further tugging on the heartstrings, Pearl tells Brian she wishes they could spend more time with each other, a request Brian is happy to fulfill. Thanks to virtual reality, Pearl and Brian get to spend a lifetime together before she takes her last breath. At the same time, Peter lets the birds fly away, forcing both of them to say goodbye to their new friends. One at the end of a life and the other at the beginning. What a double whammy for emotional moments, dude. Does anyone else have the urge to sing the Circle of Life right now? Later, the guys go to the clam to drown their sorrows, but inadvertently get some female attention.
I'm not ready yet. Hey, you're getting some looks yourself.
Now, I've heard of a chick magnet, but it's taking it to whole new levels right there. It's clear that Peter has a fatherly instinct deep down within him, and it's not just birds that get to see his parental side. Peter doesn't have the best track record when it comes to showing how much he loves his children, but after being forced to spend time with Meg, he realizes that she's not so bad. And no, this isn't a parallel universe episode. Road to Rupert begins with the Griffin family holding a yard sale to get rid of their old junk. But Peter doesn't exactly know how these things work and buys a pair of Evel Knievel gloves he already owns. If that wasn't dumb enough, he then sets up a death-defying stunt in the street.
I'm busy. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some death to defy.
Frackin' nailed it. Unfortunately for Peter, his actions led to Joe revoking his driver's license. Yeah, trying to jump parked cars in front of a police officer's house isn't the smartest of moves. With no way to get around and having the attention span of a toddler, Peter tries to find ways to entertain himself.
Norm! And Peter, yeah!
Playing Mr. Peterson?
Griffin?
I can't find the...
He was talking to me, Norm. Quit stealing my punchlines, you fat drunk.
If we all punched our screens after seeing a fat drunk, we'd all need new monitors by the end of this video. I already do. I can't see a thing. It's an instinct. Punch drunks. Anyway, it doesn't take long until Lois has had enough of her husband being around all the time and asks Meg to be his personal driver. As you can imagine, Peter is not thrilled.
Oh, this sucks. Can you believe I'm stuck with Meg driving me around? It's bad enough I got a suspended license. I gotta ride around town with Stinky McPoop pants. I want apple juice.
Aw. Isn't it sweet when parents give their kids cute nicknames? Meg soon regrets offering to help her dad after he acts like a child, demanding juice and SpongeBob. You ask me, that sounds like a good time. But to make matters worse, the guys join Peter in the back of the car for beers. As is often the case with the drunk passengers, they get a little too rowdy, and after Cleveland gives her a wet willy and Peter sets her hat on fire, Meg finally hits a boiling point.
What the hell is your problem, you dumb bimbo?
God, stop! Meg, that was awesome!
I think Meg just let out all the resentment and anger she's been holding in for years in one fell swoop. Be careful who you wet willy, guys. For the first time, Peter actually respects Meg, and it only comes at the expense of some poor dude getting his ass whooped. Lois, on the other hand, isn't happy and tells Meg she needs to phone up the guy and apologize. Unbelievably, Peter sticks up for his daughter.
Hey, don't you talk to her like that. Meg's as cool as the other side of the pillow.
He even calls her cool. Maybe Peter needs to go get a brain scan after that Evel Knievel stunt. His last brain cell might have been dislodged. Or maybe it got re-lodged back into place. I don't know. After showing she can look after herself, the father and daughter duo soon become best friends and spend some quality, albeit destructive, time together. Peter's being a real menace this episode. No one on Spooner Street is safe. They also go to a drive-thru movie, and Meg manages to pull off the death-defying stunt that got Peter in trouble in the first place. After spending a couple of days together, Meg tells Peter how much he's enjoyed spending time with him, and surprisingly, Peter shares the same sentiment.
I'm starting to realize I got a really wonderful daughter.
Thanks, Dad.
It's heartwarming to see Peter treat Meg like an actual daughter for once and not just the butt of his jokes. The wholesome moment seems like it's about to end, though, as Joe comes over and tells Peter that his license has been reinstated and that he no longer needs to rely on Meg to drive him around. She, like me, and probably everyone who watched this for the first time, expected her dad to go back to how he was before, making fun of her and farting in her cereal bowl, normal stuff. But that's when Peter tells his daughter this.
But from now on, Meg, you and me are secret best friends.
10 seconds later.
What I want is a fresh glass of better daughter.
Now, that might seem harsh, but when it comes to Peter Griffin logic, he couldn't have said anything sweeter, in my opinion. Meg rarely gets to look like a badass and also be the apple of her father's eye, so this episode really has the feel-good factor for the family underdog. But this isn't the only time Family Guys had a heartwarming father-daughter focus. In fact, there was one with the most unlikeliest of characters. Quagmire is committed to being uncommitted when it comes to the ladies, but as he finds out in Quagmire's Baby, living life like Hugh Hefner on crack comes with consequences.
Look, there's a note.
Glenn, this is your child. Next time, wear a condom, jerk. Oh my God!
That stork delivering babies could have knocked first. Sheesh. After Joe sends off for a DNA test, it turns out the little baby belongs to Quagmire. Not exactly a family guy. He tries to pass the baby on to his neighbors, but Lois tells him that the baby is his responsibility now. Problem is, he doesn't have any idea how to take care of a child.
Bathroom's down the hall to the right. If you ever come home and there's a tie on the door, it means I'm frogging someone, so give me at least a couple hours. You smoke?
Poor kid, don't stand a chance. Thankfully, Lois comes over to help out and asks if the baby has a name yet. He tells them her name is Anna Lee, with a shortened version that YouTube won't let us share. But let's just say it'd be at the bottom of my list of baby names, personally. Quagmire tries to keep his life as it was before Anna came along, but as he quickly finds out, babies can get in the way.
So, how long you been in beauty school?
2 months.
Well, tonight we're doing facials.
You have a baby?
Yeah, it's a long story. Now, where were we? Giggity, giggity.
Talk about failing at extracurricular activities. When he finally wakes up, his date is long gone, but she does have a letter telling him that she was a virgin, so it was probably for the best nothing happened. For Quagmire, this is the equivalent of the Grinch stealing Christmas. Angry, he decides that it's time for Anna to leave. First, he asks Peter if he and Lois want to adopt the baby, but he tells them that they can barely look after the two they had. Poor Meg. That secret best friend title didn't last long. He does offer a suggestion, though.
Now, this is just a suggestion, just throwing it out there. Have you considered abortion?
Peter, I think it's too late for that.
Good heavens! With nobody willing to take the baby off of Quagmire's hands, he decides to take her to an adoption center. Joe tells him that he's doing the right thing, while Peter reminds him that the moment he gives the baby up for adoption, he can no longer abort it. Good to know. As he hands Anna Lee over to the receptionist, Quagmire realizes what he's giving up.
Here, she'll go to a good home, right?
Oh, yes.
She'll be somewhere safe, right?
How can you give her up, Glenn? She has your eyes and doesn't have your chin. The guys go to a strip club to celebrate Quagmire's freedom, but everything he sees at the Fuzzy Clam reminds him of her.
That stripper has a rash on her ass, just like Anna Lee used to get. And that other stripper's sitting on that guy's lap, just like Anna Lee used to do.
I guess grief affects people in different ways, but when strippers start reminding you of your daughter, it's time to see a therapist. He realizes that he made a huge mistake giving up his only daughter and breaks down. Heartbroken, Quagmire visits Anna Lee's new home to take her back, but after peering through the window, he sees a scene fitting of a Christmas card, with her new mother and father coming in to play with her. This is when Glenn realizes that they look like a real family, and that the baby belongs to the parents who can actually care for her.
Well, I guess I just realized it's not about me. This family is what's best for Anna Lee. I gotta let her go.
I'm proud of you, Quagmire.
Thanks, man.
Now, if that don't tug at the heartstrings, I don't know what will. But this is Quagmire we're talking about. The chances are he has a lot more babies out there for when he's finally ready to be a dad. While he is known for being a sleazy womanizer, this moment shows a softer side to him. It's actually kind of sad. Like his stash of little blue pills, the experience has made him grow. The difference being that this personal growth won't wear off in 4 to 6 hours. It'll wear off the next episode. As is the case with Anna Lee, there have been moments in Family Guy where someone had to say goodbye to someone for the greater good. While Vinny helped the Griffins get over losing Brian, Stewie wasn't ready to give up on his best friend.
You realize if I save Brian, my family won't get another dog. We will never have met. I'll probably never see you again.
Ah, man. Just when I was warming up to Vinny. In Christmas Guy, the Griffin family plans a trip to Quahog's Christmas Carnival for Stewie's first Christmas. He has more repeating birthdays than a grandma in denial. On turning up at the mall, however, it turns out Stewie's Christmas elf costume is the most Christmassy thing about the whole carnival. Confused, the Griffins look for answers.
Where is the Christmas Carnival?
Canceled. I don't know why. I'm just a small cog in this operation.
They canceled Christmas at the mall. Where in the world would they listen to the same 10 festive songs on repeat now? Stewie is upset that he missed out on meeting Santa and begins around Quahog. Did that make sense? It will in 1 second.
I don't know, Lois. I feel like if we don't do something, Stewie's first words are going to be, "Why did you kill Christmas?" You know, I know I'm usually all business, but deep down, thing is, it keeps me going more than anything else. A sense of wonder.
Well, you have your work cut out for you, Peter.
I see. Canceling Christmas will be the cause of World War III. It won't just be chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I don't know what I meant by that. Thanks to Vinny's street intel, he discovers that the mall's owner was behind the cancellation. Who would be so mean as to do that, you might ask? Well, none other than, of course, Lois's dad, Carter Pewterschmidt. Peter takes things into his own hands and visits Carter to get answers.
And why did you cancel a Christmas carnival?
You know what it's like being rich at Christmas, Griffin? Everyone expects an expensive present, and I get nothing.
Bah humbug. I guess it's not just taxes rich people don't like paying out for. Peter isn't going to let this issue fly, and he helps Carter find his Christmas spirit so he can bring back the carnival. First, he tries to get Carter to write a letter to Santa, but Peter lies about all the family members except for Carter needing a ball stool to fight against gravity. There's a gift idea for the Griffins. Get Carter the Ball Sling 5000. There you go. I just saved Christmas. Where's my money? Peter also tries several other ideas to evoke festive joy, but fails miserably. Who doesn't like being forced to drink eggnog while being videotaped? Eventually, Peter is just left with one more trick up his sleeve.
No Christmas carnival.
I had no idea you were Jewish.
What? Is that how this is coming off?
Yeah, kinda.
There's nothing like a little anti-Semitic stereotyping to get people into the Christmas spirit. I'm sorry. Finally, Stewie gets to meet Santa, but realizes that the only thing he wants is for Brian to come back. Vinny can see how much he misses his friend and tries to cheer him up.
Vinny, my name is Brian, your favorite dog. Hey, whose leg do you gotta gagoosh to get an amaretto di serrano around here?
Vinny, you're not Brian.
For a split second, I thought Brian had risen from the dead. You should have had a martini glass to really sell it. Vinny tries his hardest, but Stewie explains that there's only one Brian, and he is gone. Vinny then suggests that they go to the mall so he can buy Stewie a Christmas present to cheer him up. So at the toy store, Stewie tells Vinny he hates how barely anything is left on the shelves around the holidays, but looking around, he spots a familiar-looking baby carrying a toy.
That boy is me. Several months ago, I time-traveled ahead to purchase that Christmas toy.
If I had a time machine, I'd be doing the same thing. No more waiting for my DoorDash to arrive. I am DoorDash. Stewie asks Vinny to distract his past self so he can steal the time machine return pad and save Brian. The loyal hound is happy to do so. After all, robbery seems to be like a hobby for the street-smart Vinny. In fact, he knows how exactly to pull it off.
Hey, how you doing? This might sound a little presumptuous of me, but you ever do any modeling?
Well, not professionally.
He may be a genius, but when it comes to vanity, he's a sucker. Stewie manages to steal the time pad and prepares to go back in time to save Brian. The only problem is that by doing that, the timeline will change, which means that Vinny would never have come into the Griffin household. At this point, the family has grown fond of the new dog, but Vinny understands it's a sacrifice he has to make for Stewie's happiness.
So, I think this is goodbye.
Hey, I'm man's best friend, not some stupid baby's best friend, right?
Bro, take him with you. 2 talking dogs are better than 1. After an emotional goodbye, Stewie goes back in time and waits for his past self to go inside before pushing Brian out of the way of the car, saving his life. Stewie explains how he couldn't live without his best friend and how he stole the time pad to set things right. As a result, the timeline where Brian died was erased, along with that version of Stewie.
Merry Christmas, Brian. Hey, who are you talking to out here?
A pretty awesome guy.
Pretty awesome guy. Why don't you marry him, huh? All right, game on!
Sure, a pair of polka dot socks are fine, but this is the ultimate Christmas present. But it's not like Brian hasn't also returned the favor by bringing one of Stewie's friends back from the dead. After ripping his cherished teddy bear apart, Brian realizes that despite how clever he is, Stewie is still just a baby.
He was a great friend. He was always there whenever Stewie needed him. He always listened. He made Stewie a better person.
The world does need more Ruperts. In Dog Bites Bears, Stewie settles down for a Fast and the Furious movie marathon with his 2 best friends, Rupert and Brian, with Stewie and Rupert talking all the way through the movie. However, Brian decides to go to the bar instead.
Suit yourself. Rupert and I are just fine without you. Yeah, you're right. I bet he is on his period. Whatever that means.
I'm with him on this one. I hate it when my stuffed animals chat through a film. Frickin' shut up! I'm trying to record! Sorry, one of them was trying to get my attention now. Still trying to figure out what's stuffed animal and what's voice in my head, but I'm learning to differentiate it between. Stewie and Rupert watch the movies late into the night until Stewie can't stay awake anymore and leaves his stuffed friend to watch the rest of the film. When he comes down the next morning, though, Stewie gets the shock of his life.
Rupert?
It's a massacre! How could they show this on television? Turns out that while Rupert was minding his own business, a drunk Brian mistook him for a chew toy. Stewie, obviously upset, wakes him up by calling him a murderer. With a gun pointed at his face, Brian offers up his favorite tennis ball as a sacrifice to say sorry.
You're comparing Rupert to a tennis ball? He always knew there was something off about you, and now we know what it was. You're a psycho!
Yeah, I get it. Hanging out with a tennis ball is just boring, man. For something so round, they're surprisingly square. That might be the drugs talking. I think Brian could learn a thing or two from Stewie's view of friendship. He literally saved him from being killed by a car, and yet he's happy to make Rupert look like an explosion at a cushion factory. Talk about double standards. After cremating the remains of Rupert, Stewie sets out for Vermont to spread his ashes. When Brian finds out, he rushes to the bus station and follows him to the Great Mountain State. The 2 hike up a mountain, but with Stewie's anger building, it's not long until the bad blood is spilled, and the 2 begin fighting. Brian eventually admits why he destroyed Rupert, and it wasn't just a drunken mistake.
Fine, you're right. You know what? It wasn't an accident. I was sick of you talking to him all the time. And I was sick of always playing second fiddle to that bear. He's not even real.
Yeah, Brian was jealous of a stuffed toy. Insecure much? After finding out that he killed Rupert on purpose, Stewie tries to do the same to Brian, but accidentally goes stumbling down a cliff, injuring his ankle. With no other choice, he lets Brian carry him up the mountain using a bushcraft sled, but not without giving him a piece of his mind the entire way up.
Want to know some of the other things he called you? Fat lassie, rin tin twink. Poopy Snoopy, Mama Dookie.
I think he left out Goofy Gonad's face and Huckleberry Hound, would you like these nuts? I'm running off of 3 hours of sleep. As they continue their climb, Brian asks Stewie how a person with so much intellect and maturity was still hung up on having a teddy bear, to which Stewie tells him this.
Because Rupert was going to be with me forever! He wasn't ever going to leave! Oh, really? Brian, let's be honest. You're a middle-aged dog, and one day, all too soon, I'm going to be crying at your funeral in an Armani suit.
So Stewie is afraid of losing Brian, therefore he focuses on his stuffed friend. Okay, hear me out. Have you ever considered taxidermy? Despite Brian's feelings about Rupert, he realizes how much his little friend loved him and shares some sweet words about how much he meant to the both of them before sending him off to the great toy box in the sky.
Okay, Rupert was a great bear. A great,
Power bottom.
Right, okay.
Beautiful sentiment. But I'd leave that out of the obituary post, Stewie. With only a bottle of pee at hand, Brian pours it out as a tribute. And this is why you shouldn't eat yellow snow, kids. Before going home with Stewie fast asleep in the back of the car, Brian makes one last stop.
Rupert! You've come back to me!
And I'll take with me the...
What are the chances that some random antique toy shop along the road has a Rupert? Let's just hope that Brian doesn't hit the bottle anytime soon, or else it's going to be another trip up the mountain. This episode was really touching and gave the duo an opportunity to have a heart-to-heart. More than that, reminded Brian that Stewie is still just a baby who finds comfort in his teddy bear, despite the fact that he carries a gun and has committed more crimes than a mafia boss. Defeating a stuffed bear might be easy, but a real one is much more difficult. This is a lesson Peter learned the hard way, which led to a touching father-son moment, surprisingly. At some point in every father's life, they have to admit that their kids have some traits they can't compete with, whether it be a skill they build upon or something they're born with.
All right, stand back, Lois.
Oh, my. Well, no wonder he's always slouching.
Chris needs a lock on his door pronto. People of Quahog are making the most of the winter in the episode, and the wiener is by having snowball fights and skating on the frozen lake. Peter challenges Chris to a race and beats him, which leads him to getting pretty cocky about it. But after bragging to the guys with the bearded clam, they tell him that it's only a matter of time before his son takes up the mantle of being the best at doing stuff. Like any mature middle-aged man, Peter graciously accepts the fact. No, he doesn't.
All right, salt shaker up the nose.
I got pepper.
I win!
With Peter getting competitive, he takes Chris to play basketball, expecting to run rings around him, but he underestimates his son.
What do you got? What do you got, huh? Come on! Come on, ref, that's charging. No foul. No foul!
Yep, time is a cruel mistress. After Chris outplays him, Peter resorts to playing dirty, even lying about him and Lois getting a divorce. You're supposed to distract the kids with expensive stuff when getting a divorce, not make that the distraction. He's got it all wrong. After the game, though, Chris inadvertently shows that there is one area Peter will never beat him in.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever beat you.
Hey, Chris, what's with your leg? Oh, my God, that's not your leg!
So it turns out that Chris is carrying more sausage than an Italian deli on Black Friday. I'm so sorry for that sentence. Feeling inadequate about his size, Peter starts overcompensating. Not only does he stuff Stewie down his pants to try and impress the ladies, but also buys a long, phallic-shaped sports car.
Don't worry, baby. I'll be gentle.
I just feel sorry for those poor guys driving smart cars. Looking for another way to fix his masculine pride, Peter goes to a hunting shop where he finds more men having the same problem as he.
Our locker room with full shower facilities.
Holy crap, they're all so small.
Well, you see, Peter, the way we look at it, a man's only as big as the gun he carries.
Is that a gun in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? Oh, it's a gun. With the help of Brian, Peter begins practicing by shooting CDs launched by Brian. While they talk, however, Chris finds out that his dad is hating on him because of the large size of his dong and starts believing he's a freak. Peter decides to take Chris out on a hunting trip to prove that he is still better than his son in at least this aspect. He takes the reins and explains to Chris how to be a master hunter. The two bond, and Chris tells his dad that he was beginning to believe he doesn't like him anymore. But before Peter could respond, they come across their first target.
Tracks. There must be a deer around here.
Well, those are snowmobile tracks.
Shh, there he is.
Fascinating. They always leave the good stuff out of wildlife documentaries. While Peter was concentrating on the deer, the hunter didn't realize he had become the hunted. A giant brown bear creeps up on the pair, giving them the same look Yogi gives to a picnic basket.
Say hello to Satan for me.
Peter must be the fast food equivalent to this bear. Zero health benefits, but filling. Facing imminent death, Peter's life flashes before his eyes, albeit a short flash, with him being held back in the 4th grade for most of his life. Luckily, Chris's couch potato knowledge kicks in, and he remembers how to stop a bear from attacking.
Dad, I know what to do. Go away! Go on, get! Stay tuned for an all-new Ally McBeal!
When Whether it was the prospect of having to watch Ally McBeal or being intimidated by Chris, the bear backs down and leaves them alone. After saving his life, Peter tells Chris that he acted like a real man and says the words all Griffin children long to hear.
Holy crap! Chris, that was amazing! You handled that bear like a real man. I'm proud of you, son.
As you can imagine, Chris is very surprised to hear that Peter's actually proud of him, as he has overheard what he had said about him to Brian, but Peter admits that he was just being stupid and jealous. He finally accepts that his son is bound to be more impressive when it comes to some things, and no amount of enhancement supplements seen on late-night TV commercials will change that. Very sweet moment between father and son. Weird, but sweet. While Chris managed to save Peter with these, it took a lot more to save Stewie from the foster system. When a social worker mistakes Stewie for a crack baby, it takes the whole of Spooner Street to save him from being taken away.
Sandy Belfort, Child Services. We're placing this baby in a foster home.
What?
For God's sake, feed me!
Must be his eyes. She's always looking high as a kite in the early seasons. In Love Thy Trophy, Meg comes home upset because the girls at her school were mean about how lame her bag is. The girls refused to let her go to lunch with them, but invited the teacher, Mrs. Kenner. Wow, when the teacher's more popular, you know things are rough. Meg, determined to get in with the popular kids, plays the Daddy's Princess card.
Daddy, if you really love me, you buy me a Prada bag.
Can't say no to you, honey. What are they, like $10?
1100.
You wish I loved you that much.
Anybody else think Peter was nicer to Meg in the earlier seasons? Nowadays, he would have just told her to shut up. Later on, while pushing Stewie in his stroller, she sees a job vacancy and realizes that she doesn't need her dad's money after all. Unfortunately, having no experience, and let's face it being Meg, the owner of the diner turns her away. But as she's about to leave, a waitress tells him that he should give her the job as she's a young, single mother.
What's the little guy's name? Well, I can't send an unwed teenage mother out on the street without a job.
My son's name is Stewie.
Guess we've all told little white lies to get a job. Although I do regret saying I was a trained skydiving instructor that one time. If this was Family Guy, we would cut to that, but we can't cut to that, so you're just gonna have to imagine that. I don't even know how you would, this disembodied voice leaping out of a plane. Anyway, Meg starts waiting at the tables while Stewie waits at the counter, eating his own body weight in pancakes and syrup. Everything seems to be going well, and Meg realizes that customers are willing to give her huge sympathy tips on account of her being a single mom, something that never happens in real life. Meanwhile, Peter and the rest of Spooner Street get to work on their float for the Quahog Harvest Festival Parade. It's quite wholesome if you look past the fact that it's a giant pair of
We're never gonna get this float done in time for the parade. Pick up the pace, guys!
The group's efforts pay off and they win the parade, which brings them together. The problem is, who gets the trophy? Unable to decide, they put it in the middle of the street, held up by their float, but the next morning when Peter goes out to get the paper, he discovers it's been stolen. The families instantly turn on each other and start pointing the finger.
Wait a second, what about Peter? He's the one who wanted the trophy all along.
Last night I was stealing Joe's ladder so I could steal a trophy tonight.
Peter!
At least he's honest. With the families of Spooner Street going to war, they decide they need to protect their homes.
Cleveland and Quagmire are holding their positions, but I haven't seen Joe all day.
Dad? Careful, Kevin. There's a bear trap 2 feet to your right.
Thanks, Dad.
Can you imagine being a UPS worker? It'd be like stepping into a horror movie. If their shorts weren't brown when they arrived, they definitely would be when they left. While Peter and Lois were distracted with the missing trophy, Meg manages to take Stewie with her again to the diner so she can use him to make more tips. You're exploiting a child. Don't think she cares. Anyway, what next? Make him wash the dishes and refill the coffee machine? Unfortunately, Meg takes her money-making scheme one step too far by telling customers that her baby is addicted to crack and that he's been eating dog food. Thinking that Stewie is a neglected, crack-addicted baby, a social worker visits Spooner Street at the worst possible time.
I was hoping I could ask you about your neighbors, the Griffins.
Bunch of card-carrying commies, you ask me.
The Griffins are not to be trusted.
Vile, cheating, lying scum.
And their carpet and drape scheme?
Well, after that glowing reference, Stewie should just pack his bags now. Along with 2 police officers, the social worker comes to take Stewie away to a foster home. And to make matters worse, Stewie, now hooked on pancakes, tells the worker he needs to be fed.
Honey, would you like some pancakes?
Oh, yes, take me!
Stewie!
Man, this is gonna take some explaining. The social worker wastes no time in taking Stewie to a foster home full of children, which has more diversity than the It's a Small World ride at Disney.
Stewie, come complete a rainbow.
Let's go play swallow the stuff under the sink.
If the social worker is still trying to save babies, she made one huge mistake here. When Meg discovers what's happened, she comes clean, and Peter and Lois go down to the Children's Services building to try and set everything straight.
Hi, where the Griffins?
I'm sorry, I can't find your paperwork.
I want my baby back.
Lois, please, let me handle this. We're the ones who fed dog food to our crack-addicted baby?
Yeah, just look a little closer. It's probably filed under D for deadbeat parents. After failing to get Stewie back, Peter and Lois confront the rest of the family, saying that their lies got Stewie taken away. While they all argue about whose fault it is, Brian gives them all a reality check.
It's all of yours. You put some shiny hunk of metal before your own friendships.
They all need to realize that the trophy made them lose sight of what was important, and now they need to team up to get one of their own back. They come up with a plan to break Stewie out. First of all, Cleveland and Joe distract the foster family while Peter slides down the chimney. Seems like the plan's a success until the foster parents catch him in the act and hold him at gunpoint. Should these guys really be looking after all those kids with a rifle just hanging around? Peter and Lois try to explain what happened, but the family refuses to hand him over. That is until the husband notices Meg's new Prada bag and is willing to trade it for Stewie. Nope, that's it. Trading a bag for a baby? Someone needs to get the social worker. She's got to be around here somewhere, right?
Glenn, honey, I have a question for you.
Hey, I have a question for you, too. Why are you still here?
I should have guessed. Peter may not express it much, but as seen in the episodes I've covered, he truly loves his family. Pretty much, for the most part. But when Death makes a return, he realizes the one person he always takes for granted. In Death Lives, Lois is looking forward to her wedding anniversary, but Peter decides to ditch it for the guys.
Peter, tomorrow's your anniversary.
Ah, crap. If Lois finds out I'm ditching her to play golf, she'll hit me with a frying pan, which is why I'm gonna drink this frying pan antidote.
He's gonna need a lot more of that antidote when Lois finds out. After Quagmire signs the gang up for golf, Peter plans out a scavenger hunt to distract her from the fact that Peter's a lousy husband. It seems that he went through the trouble of deceiving his wife for nothing, though, as Loretta won't let Cleveland play, and a thunderstorm forces Brian and Quagmire into the clubhouse. Undeterred to let a little bit of rain ruin his day, Peter carries on playing, which was not the smartest move.
You again?
Well, the last time he saw Death, he did say that they'd meet again soon. Peter begs Death to not take him away, but the Grim Reaper calms him down by saying he's just having a near-death experience. Oh, that's completely fine then. Curious, Peter asks when he's supposed to die, to which Death tells him it's 2 years after they get divorced. Peter don't believe him, as Lois has been crazy about him since the day they met.
And why don't you give him a kiss?
Oh, Peter, I hear music.
Yeah, me too.
I've never met a guy like you. You're so full of life. It's like I can really be myself with you.
Oh, man, she was beautiful.
You know, this looks awfully familiar. That's me. Look at all that hair. Can't believe I thought that looked good.
I love you, Lois Pewterschmidt.
I love you, Peter Griffin.
Sure, they may have caused a fuel truck to crash and brutally kill the driver, but it's still heartwarming to see them like this. Peter takes the flashback as proof that she will never leave him and demands to be brought back to life, but Death tells him that he has to have a revelation about his feelings for Lois before he can live again. What happened to golf? Death decides to take Peter back to the moment he met Lois's father, and it went about as well as it could be expected, really.
It's nice.
It's early Etruscan.
Oh, get out of here.
Ensign Glenn Quagmire, welcome aboard.
Overprotective parents, am I right? While Carter's reaction wasn't great, it did lead to Peter meeting Quagmire. His womanizing ways now make perfect sense after being stuck for weeks on a ship full of guys. Eventually, Death gives up trying to make Peter realize how he feels about his wife and allows him to go back into his body, but not before telling him this.
The revelation, jackass. It could have helped you save your marriage.
Wait, I can't lose Lois. Please, I'll do anything.
I wonder if Peter wants to save his marriage because of Lois or because he knows he's going to die in 2 years after they split. Peter makes Death an offer he can't refuse and tells him that he can get him a girlfriend in return for his help. It turns out that reaping souls doesn't leave much time to go out and mingle, as Death jumps at the chance of having a wingman. First of all, they go to the beach, as according to Peter, it's the best place to pick up chicks. But then it turns out that Death has zero riz.
Do you, live around here?
I live with my mom.
Tell your mom we said hi.
Heads up!
Ouch. Good thing he's already dead. That rejection would have killed me. Peter discovers that Death has a crush on a woman he met after he reaped her dad's soul after he passed away. Well, there's a cute story to tell their kids. Wasting no time, the two go to the pet store she works at, but after she can't hear him with all the dogs barking, he decides to leave. I mean, what did he expect? A skeleton's like the Holy Grail chew toy for a dog. Peter isn't taking no for an answer and tells Death he has to find a way to make it happen, just like how he managed to get back home to Lois. But Death tells him that he's had enough, and Peter calls him a chicken. Pissing off the entity that can literally send you to the afterlife isn't a good idea.
What the hell is going on out here?
Amy, you want to go somewhere and grab a coffee?
Sure, I get off at 2.
I'll meet you here.
Well played, Death, although it might be awkward when the coffee trickles through your ribcage. After one last trip to the past, the moment Peter returned from his little adventure, he finally realizes how much he takes his wife for granted.
What the hell are you doing here? Take this and stay away from my daughter forever.
$1 million? I love her, Mr. Pewterschmidt.
Oh, Peter.
Yeah, Peter was willing to give up $1 million to be with Lois, and now he can't even be bothered to do anything for their anniversary. Back in Quahog, Lois goes to the store to find the next clue of the scavenger hunt, but after bumping into Cleveland and Loretta, she finds out it was all just a ruse to play golf. Oh, someone's in trouble. Driving like a mad lad, she pulls up on Peter, ready to give him a piece of her mind, but he has one last trick up his sleeve. It turns out that Death abused his powers to scare Peter Frampton into singing the couple's song. Dang, that's smooth, Peter. After getting the "This Is Your Life" treatment from Death and seeing the journey Peter and Lois have been on, this episode showed a side of their relationship fans rarely get to see. Their actual relationship. Sure, Peter can be lazy, inconsiderate, deceiving, and a jerk, but deep down he loves her. Another Griffin duo who sometimes struggle to show how much they care for each other is Stewie and Brian. But after they're trapped together, they have no other choice but to share their feelings. A visit to a safe deposit box goes wrong when Stewie and Brian are accidentally locked inside a vault.
Hello? Hello? We're locked in! Did you just crap your diaper?
I got scared when the door closed.
Stuck in a confined space with a baby dookie? Oh, can it get any worse? With the bank vault door automatically locking at the end of the day, Brian and Stewie have no way to escape. To make things worse, Stewie wastes the last of his cell phone battery by calling a menswear store to ask for a refund extension for his new sweater. What? While there's no way to charge the cell phone, Stewie does come up with a suggestion to get rid of their smelly problem.
Like a black guy.
Whoa, Coke, all right? I don't want any trouble.
There's not gonna be any trouble as long as you eat my poo.
And here's me thinking being held up for a wallet was terrible. Brian obviously refuses, and out of anger yells and slaps Stewie in the face. Realizing he's being a huge jerk and seeing how uncomfortable Stewie is, Brian apologizes in the most disgusting way possible.
Oh, and just do me a favor and tell me when you're about to be Moon River. Oh, my God, there it goes.
How did the two smartest characters in Family Guy overlook the option to lock the poop in the deposit box and use the sweater as a makeshift diaper? With nothing else to do, Brian decides to open up the very expensive bottle of scotch he's been keeping up for a special occasion. After sharing the drink with Stewie, they try to entertain themselves because nobody has ever regretted a drunken decision, right?
I don't know where the pin went. Wait, move your hand. Oh, wow. There, I think the pin's too thick to go all the way through. Ah! Got it. How's it look?
If he's going for the bloody keyhole look, it's spot on. The two move on to a conversation about how dogs live with purpose, but Stewie tells Brian that he isn't really like that. Offended, Brian tries to tell Stewie that people will make fun of his sweater. This leads to Stewie saying this.
I use you, man.
Yeah, I would know if you were using me.
I got you to eat my
Yeah, you were afraid you were gonna get sick.
because I wanted to see if I could.
Whoa, that's next level manipulation. Or should I say manipulation? Last one, I swear. Things get even worse when Brian realizes that a security camera has been filming them the whole time, which means Brian's dirty deed is going to be seen. Brian tells Stewie that he could kill him for being so mean, but when Stewie calls his bluff, the gun goes off and the bullet narrowly misses the drunken idiots. The next morning, Stewie won't stop asking Brian why he needs a gun at all. I mean, he always claims to be against them. This is when Brian makes a tragic confession.
No.
Come on, please.
I keep it in case I ever want to commit suicide, okay?
Wow.
Brian goes on to say that life can be too much, and when Stewie said that he didn't live with purpose, he reacted the way he did because he knew it was true. It also turns out that the bottle of scotch was part of the contingency plan.
And that bottle of scotch?
I was saving it for my last drink.
Whoa, heavy.
Stewie has a few things to say about Brian's plans, though, and tells him how selfish he is, as he's the only one that makes his life bearable. He then tells Brian that he made up all those horrible things because he felt hurt.
I mean, I love you as one loves another person whom one simply cannot do without.
I love you too, Stewie.
Stewie goes on to tell Brian that he gives his life purpose, and that should be enough, as it's the best gift a friend can give, apparently. I mean, I'd take a Chipotle gift card. I have a problem. Eventually, the two fall asleep, and like Brian and Stewie in this emotional episode, the vault door opens, finally setting them free. While he doesn't come out and say it, I think Stewie just gave Brian a reason to carry on, fleeting as it may be. How long do you think it'll be before Stewie tells everyone about the poo-poo platter thing? Well, this episode tackled a pretty dark subject, and I'm not just talking about the gross things dogs do. They still managed to keep the comical tone while addressing a very serious real-world problem. It's honestly impressive. It wasn't just about Brian needing to hear that life matters, but the viewer too. Though it ain't just Family Guy that can get you in the feels, click the video on screen to see some more heartfelt South Park episodes.